Birds, people, and the dogs that bring them together. This is episode number 36. My name is Bill, and you're tied to the Woe Post. Today we're talking to Stacey and Glen Koffler of Dakota Sky Poodle Pointers and Slovakian Rough-Haired Pointers in Dickinson, North Dakota, about one of the newest non-versatile breeds, the Slovakian Rough-Haired Pointer. Stacey and Glen tell us about how they got into the Slovakians, the challenges of breeding a very rare breed, and the creepiness of ferrets. Developed from Weimaraners, German Wirehair Pointers, and Český Fuseks, Slovakian rough-haired pointers were developed in the 1950s in what is now the Czech Republic to be a noble dog, versatile on all game and in all conditions, with a superior nose, trainable, and affectionate but respectful in the home. They have a wiry gray coat, some with white markings. Males average 24.5 to 26.5 inches at the shoulders, and females 22.5 to 26 inches, and they generally weigh between 50 and 65 pounds. One thing I've always been candid about is that I will support those who support me. I've started my Thankful Thursday posts on Facebook and Instagram to see them follow at the Woe Post on both platforms. Of course, my biggest supporters are my Patreon patrons, who pledge $3 per month to keep this show running. To become a patron and have access to exclusive content, head over to patreon.com/thewoepost. Two other friends of the Woe Post who have always been supportive are Dave and Beth Stover from Faith in the Point Bird Dogs and Faith in the Point Kennels. They've always been there for me with a boatload of training and breeding advice, loaning me gear, and even boarding my dogs on short notice. That's why I want to tell you about their upcoming training, nutrition, and first aid seminar, October 4th through 6th in Martinsville, Indiana. Dave and Beth are partnered with Inukshuk Dog Food and Paradigm Sporting Dog to bring you 3 days of top-notch hands-on training with some of the industry's most qualified professionals. For more information, go to www.fitpointbird-dogs.com/health-seminar-registration-form, or just follow the link in the show notes. As always, you can contact me by email at bill@thewoepost.com or through my website, www.thewoepost.com. And enough of the intro. Let's get over and talk to Glen and Stacey. Hey, Glen and Stacey, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having us, Bill.
Right on. So there aren't too many Slovakian rough-haired pointer breeders in the country, and of the few that there are a few that are confirmation breeders. And, that's not our target for our audience. We're looking for bird dog people. So I was really excited to find some bird dog people. And then talking to you on the phone the first time, I was thinking to myself, man, I should have just recorded that and it would have been a great podcast. But we're still going to have a great show.
Yeah, for sure. The focus for us is definitely on the hunting aspect of the breed. And it is a breed that you've got to be careful. It's one of those things that's different between the poodle pointers we do and the Slovaks is the poodle pointers are pretty much everything is hunt bred, where with the Slovaks, there's a conformation side to them, not here in the US so much, but over in Europe. So you got to be selective of the lines that you're bringing in and working with.
Yeah, I think in Europe, I can probably speak a little bit out of turn and just basically say they're kind of running out of birds to hunt over there in a lot of places anyway. So I think that, the hunting aspect of the dogs is kind of taking a back seat to some of the other games or competitions. But before we get too far on the dogs, though, can you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
I'm Glen Koffler, and one of the owners here with Stacey of Dakota Sky Poodle Pointers and Slovakian Rough-Hair Pointers.
And Glen, how did you start out with bird dogs? Did you start out as a kid owning dogs, or is this a later in life kind of venture?
Well, we both grew up here in North Dakota, and growing up, like both Stacey and I were both farm ranch, around animals our entire lives. And especially like for myself on the hunting side, hunting was just part of everyday life for me. I grew up in a very rural part of North Dakota. And I hunted my way to school every day, right? You'd think I was 100 years old, just the way we lived back then. I literally took my shotgun and headed off to school 3 or 4 miles every morning, and country school, and literally 100 birds on my way to school at age, I was 3rd grade, 4th grade, stuff like that. So it was just, my first grade picture actually is me with a bunch of crows in front of me in the shotgun as I had my lunchbox getting ready to head to school that morning. So it really goes a long ways back for me. And my dad was a dog breeder and dog trainer, mostly of herding breeds. And he was also a horse trainer. So I was around that, aspect a lot. Matter of fact, growing up, I wanted a bird dog more than anything. And I kept having to use a healer for my bird dog. And I actually had some that ended up being pretty decent bird dogs because, while dad was training him on herding cattle, I would grab the dog and go work on the hunting aspect of it. And weren't much for pointers, but they were pretty endeavorous on locating birds anyway. So that's really, was always into it, hunted forever with that. Did move out to Oregon after, graduating high school. And so, got into, the different kind of birds out that direction that you would hunt on the West Coast, and came back here frequently hunting, guiding others on our family farm. We're right in the middle of, wild bird country where we live here in Dickinson, North Dakota. And about almost 20 years ago, I was ready for another dog, and I had been into hounds for a little while and was getting out of that and really getting back into the bird dog side of things. And I was back here, I was ready for a new dog. And so I made a big point that year that I was going to pay attention to every breed that I worked with that year out on the farm. And had never met a poodle pointer, ran into an old friend that showed up with 2 poodle pointers and been hooked on the breed ever since.
Now, Stacey, you mentioned on the phone earlier that you kind of started around horses. So what bridged between horses and bird dogs?
Do it's uncanny that the similarities with the two, we compare it every day in life, whether it be the breeding and the characteristic and the behavior and a lot of the training end and the behaviors come from, we parallel them, kind of handle a horse and a dog the same way. And so I've learned with the dogs to apply it to the horses, and I've learned what I know from the horses to apply it with the dogs. And the number one word is patience. It's patience, with patience and time. And, that's where we even catch ourselves saying, what, this dog is doing nothing wrong. Let's slow down. Let's just slow down. And that's the problem in the whole world. I think we can all agree with immediate gratification and being in a hurry. I will have to say 99.9% of the time, if we're patient and do what we know, we get the result we want. Even more so in the dogs than the horses, but we do parallel them. Although I will say there's a lot less poop in the dogs there is in the horses. So that makes it a little bit easier.
Sometimes I question that, having, going through and cleaning the yard every morning.
Yeah, Glen would too. He's the master poop picker upper. It's his Zen time, he calls it.
Everybody leaves me alone, gives me some time to think.
Nobody wants to be around when you're doing that, right?
Yeah.
When I'm cleaning up every morning and, I go through the yard, I'm like, I swear I only have 4 dogs, but it seems like I pick up way more than 4 poops every day.
Oh, you do? You got it in the puppy pen. I'm kind of embarrassed to say there's mornings I go in there and go, I count, because I'm like, there's 6 of you. How is there 24 piles of poop? and it's kind of your barometer of things, but yeah, some days it's not so bad, and other days you go, what the world?
No surprise, our podcast goes the direction of
we always tell our clients we talk so much about poop around here. It's kind of an important part of all of it. But
another big thing, like with Stacey and the horses, that she really brings to all this is her understanding of genetics and breeding. And I've got a background with some of that too, but Stacey takes that to the next level. We each have our role here, and that's definitely Stacey's on that side. She's got a lot of background in that.
I've never believed in going with the fad, and in horses, it's so bad. What's popular is popular, and what's popular is worth the money. And pretty soon you're forgetting to look at the horse and the conformation and the brain between the ears, because if the paperwork says it's what's cool, that's what's going to sell. And so the horses really go through trends, up and down trends. And I've never, ever, I will say there was a point in my life where I wanted to be that cool kid. When I was younger, wanted to do the things everybody were doing. And I moved so far from that. I had a gal in Texas. She was actually from England. She marketed horses for me. She's just this brash, loud, cranky lady, but she moved a lot of horses for me. And the one thing I will take away from her, and she has since passed, was she said, I don't care what the paper says, raise pretty horses with a good mind. So that is what I do. It's not always the hot topic, you know what, but they're pretty. And if they don't have the right mind, you know, they go down the road in you know, I don't market them as what they are not. And so with the dogs, you know, in all of the poodle pointer and where we started and wanting to protect the breed, and we definitely use these same beliefs with the Slovakians, is okay, here's what the old German guys say, and here's what everybody did to start. And we take that into account, but we have our own way of thinking. And that is where our motto and our strong belief that the balance of hunting and home is where it is at for us. We want a dog that's, you know, awesome in the field, but we also want a dog you're going to enjoy the other 7, 8, 9 months out of the year. So we base that on our clientele, what they're looking for, what they want. And we believe the dogs here, we want them to be what people are looking for. So if it doesn't fit within the lines, we're kind of okay with that a little bit. We want health. We want good coats. We want dogs that can hunt, but we want dogs that will be part of the family.
So that's a common theme on this show too, is, you know, structurally strong dogs that are healthy and with the right temperament. Oh, and by the way, they hunt well.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you talk to, I think, you know, the average hunter, the hunters are saying, not all, but a lot of hunters are saying, I don't really care what the dog looks like. I just want a dog with a ton of drive, or I want a dog that hunts. I want a dog with a strong nose. These are things that you hear all the time. And I think what's lost on a lot of the end users, puppy buyers, if you will, is the work that breeders go through in order to provide them with the best hunting dog possible. And that really a lot of times involves a structural assessment of some sort. You know, God forbid we should say the word confirmation, because it has like, that's like a 4-letter word, but, you know, but to, you know, to you and I, it means something different, right? It means a dog that's going to be structurally sound, that has a correct coat for a reason, right? And is going to be a dog that hunts 10, 11, 12 years very well, very strong, rather than a dog that relies on painkillers in order to hunt that long, right. Or maybe it hunts for 6, 7, or 8 years and then starts to really slow down because it's arthritic, because its joints can't keep up with itself anymore. The motor isn't there, or the suspension's not there, or something like that. Yeah. So it's always comforting to hear other breeders say that unsolicited.
Well, you know, we're here for our clientele base and the dogs for the life of the dog, right? We have a very close bond with our clients, and we stay in touch, you know, frequently with them all. So, you know, we've got to make sure we're sending out healthy dogs that fit within their lifestyle and so forth. Because, you know, it's not like you picked up a pup and thank you very much and you're down the road. We're going to be here for the long haul. So really that, you know, we're in North Dakota. So, you know, yes, we hunt a lot. I mean, we were in the field, you know, over 100 days a year in the hunting field. But the hunt is, I wouldn't really call it secondary, but it has to come after the coat, the health, the temperament. Then the hunt is there. It's up to us to bring it out. If we've got good lines, it's going to be in there and we can bring it out of those dogs. And we need to guide our clientele to make sure that they are also, you know, coached to bring that out, or many come in for training. Again, we do train, you know, a large portion of the pups that leave here. But, you know, we've got to have that health. Otherwise, it's just going to be a problem for everyone and a lot of heartbreak down the road. And that's our main goal, is to avoid that. And you know, I had some of that when I was getting into some of the hunting breeds early on, like I had some dogs that had some health issues that were misrepresented, you could say. And I'm driven to make sure that I handle people differently than that we're upfront on everything, that we send out the very best that we can. And
we were those people that were handed a pup and said, thanks for the cash. We were those people, and we left kind of with speechless. I mean, we went a long way. We flew, we were speechless. I don't think we knew what to expect, but it was not that. And so that day we knew where we wanted our kennel to go that day. And we don't ever want anybody to walk away from our kennel feeling like that. And I don't think they do. I really don't think they do. We stress it, like Glenn said, from the minute you take that puppy home. I don't care if it's 13 years old and you ran into family problems, we'll come get it. We'll come get it. We'll take care of it. We'll take care of you. And we are, the life of the dog it's no joke here. It's absolutely no joke.
And you guys are doing this full time. You have, there's no other job.
No, all day, every day. All day, every day. He's here all day, every day. I bounce between the barn all day, every day. I don't even get to town very often.
Yeah.
Glenn's kind of the grocery getter, gas getter, go to the bank. And I don't know. We don't know where the days go because, Sunday, like today in the evening, we'll go, what, here we go again. And then it's Friday. And it's, it's a whirlwind. We're fortunate to do what we love. It's not always easy. But the joy that these guys bring us and the people that we've met, we call them our Dakota Sky family. It's what they become. And we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate to do what we do.
And we're fortunate where we do it, right here in Southwest North Dakota, right? We're in the heart of wild bird country. Our training and everything is done right on site here. We function on about almost 3,000 acres of property of our own that we, have for wild bird exposure. And, we keep chuckers, ducks, pigeons all on hand year round for training. We kind of train year round as well. We've got, indoor facilities for it too, to counteract our weather. We've got the space, the room, and we do it right here. We're 1 minute from the training grounds.
Wild birds. It's funny when people call and say, do your dogs hunt wild birds? Initially, I thought that was such a dumb question. I'm like, well, they're hunting dogs. Of course they hunt wild birds, but I didn't realize how many people only preserve hunt. And that's the only thing they know and see. And I went, holy smokes. He took some video last night of a pup going home. She's about 7 months old. She's been here with us. He took some field shots. He took some water shots. And I said, Glenn, if you show the world those pictures, North Dakota is going to be overpopulated. I said, why looking at this would we want to be anywhere else? And he said, hey, have them call in January. have them take a video in January. Yeah. So there is hard times here, but it is the center of it.
But it is true, like last evening, getting this 7-month-old, she's been here the majority of her life so far. As she was a started dog, and we did everything from potty training, crate training, all the way on up to send her home now as a hunting dog. And last night threw in the side by side, and in a 15-20 minute drive, we probably got on 5 or 6 pheasant points. We're not in pheasant season, but we're chasing around a little bit, and the Sharpies and Huns is going now. We got into a few coveys of Huns last night, and this is just in a few minutes, right? Like I can take the dog out and we can spot birds, let that young dog get out and have opportunity to get good quality wild bird contact. And I don't care how many pigeons you throw out of a launcher, you just can't duplicate that.
It's definitely not the same. And, I had the luck to be able to hunt a little bit in North Dakota last year, and really just a few hours from where you guys are. And sure, there are tons of birds, but it's still hunting and it's still hard. And in some of those grasslands, those birds can just run forever. And a dog's got a lot of work. It's not easy, I think, for a dog that hasn't been in that situation to figure out how to pin those birds.
Yeah. Well, that's last night. I'd drive along, I'd see a a rooster take off and head under the thick cover and then just stop and let the dog out, let him pick up that track and go figure it out. And
Yep. Definitely. For those of us that live in, kind of the eastern Midwest, if you will, which is, it's not mecca for any birds, our dogs, it takes a few days for the dogs to figure it out there in bigger country, that's for sure. But our pheasant population here isn't quite what you have out there, so we can find a few, but not like that. And then the ones that we have, they just can't run as far because the cover is just not as big.
Sure.
So you guys started out with poodle pointers, and you decided you wanted to take on another breed. So how did you get to the Slovakian rough hairs?
So it's kind of an accidental story. When we started the kennel, we just said in the back of our minds, you know what, one day we'd like to bring on a second versatile breed. And that's all we said. And we talk about it a little bit, go, maybe one day a standard poodle was very intriguing to me, knowing that the hunting lines are really difficult to find in that breed, but it was always just chatter, and so Jeff House out of Sudden Valley Kennels, who we got to know fairly well, had a Slovakian, and he imported a female that was bred at the time, and I knew it. And we kept pretty close contact with him, and she whelped. And one day I just said, "Hey, Glenn." And I literally just said, "Hey, Glenn, I want one of those." I wasn't sure why. They were just elusive and intriguing to me. He had a female available. We had no plan other than let's get this girl. Let's see what she is. Let's see how she grows. And her name is Nadia. She's our oldest female. Nadia is a princess. She's a diva. She's gorgeous. She's smart. She's spoiled. She's all of those things. And then we go, what do we do with her now? There's really stud dog wise, we're her siblings. There wasn't much around. So, we just developed her. We started learning about her. And then before she was even breeding age, Jeff had a 3-year-old. Ben was 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imported Slovakian stud that was trained and tested in Slovakia. And a gentleman here in the States had him for, I think about 2 years, and really didn't do too much with them. And Ben is a big, strong, I need some room to run, beautiful dog. And he was selling him. And so I asked Jeff, I said, wow, this is too good to be true. Like, what's Ben's story? And he was fully trained, came over here. The guy that had him just wasn't prepared for him. Newly married, having babies, doing those things. So we took on Ben. Again, not knowing much about him. He's a beautiful soul. Little bit confused when he got here. We took us a while to figure out he didn't know English very well. So we got Ben here. We made him part of the kennel, which took a while for him. And then we started looking more into the history and learning more about the dogs, and that was our first pairing. And we just always said, we're going to learn along with our clients. They're wonderful dogs. They're wonderful companions. They're unique in their own way. And I've always been I want to do something a little different person. I don't want to do what everybody does, kind of like I did in the horses. And, it's just been a journey since then. We imported actually 2 other females from Slovakia after that. Which was kind of messy. It was during COVID, and those girls had a tough go getting over here. One, she just never came around to hunt. I mean, she was not meant to be in a kennel. She was not meant to hunt. So we did home her with a Weimaraner family, which we kind of try to tap into those Weimaraner people because there's some similarities there. And then Rika did well for us. We actually did just retire Rika. She had 2 litters for us. And, we just continued to learn and appreciate the breed and their differences. And they're very unique. They're very unique dogs.
Yeah. I think on my side, where my interest in was, is I noticed that there's definitely a connection with the poodle pointer and the Slovakian rough hair pointer as far as the breeders, and a lot of breeders handle both breeds, right? Like that's something I've seen, and we really see that even with our customer base. Almost all of our Slovakians end up in a home that they've already got a poodle pointer from us.
Yeah, most do.
And they're very happy with them, right? Like I don't think we've got a home yet that's got both breeds that is unhappy with them, right? Everybody's, you see the unique differences, but there's also a lot of similarity. And being such a fan of the poodle pointer, the more I looked into it, I kept seeing, okay, like even over in Slovakia and stuff, like, yeah, you see a lot of times there's a connection between the poodle pointer and the Slovakian rough hair pointer. And that kind of was really, if I'm going to add a second breed and I'm such a fan of the poodle pointer, that kind of made sense to me, right? Like there's a tie in there. And there's, you go back into the history of the Slovak, there's some poodle pointer, in there as well that can be involved. So that's kind of where my interest in it. And then, in having them here in the kennel and in the home, again, we do see a lot of similarity between the two, but unique differences. One thing I say is the Slovak, their nose is second to none. I mean, a poodle pointer's got a great nose. Pretty much all the versatile breeds do nowadays, right? You rarely do you encounter a dog that has a bad nose anymore, right? The breeders have done such a good job of most breeds that's not much of a problem anymore. But the Slovak really takes it next level. Their ability to track, to follow ground scent. I was a houndsman for a while, so I'm pretty familiar with working with dogs like that. And I really see it in the Slovaks. I tell you what, if they pick up a track, it's a done deal. Whether we're even at a NAVDA event or in the field, I mean, if that's tracking, down game, that sort of thing. The Slovak is just excellent. Their nose is phenomenal. If you're hunting, like our Hungarian partridge, we hunt a lot of those here, and their numbers are real good nowadays. One of my favorite birds, like our girl Nadia, she can hold a covey of Huns like no other dog. That's a hard thing for a dog to pin down. If they crowd them, they get in too close, they come in too hot. They're going to bust early. She's got a way of just, I can tell if her nose is down, she's working a single bird. If her head's up high, there's a covey, and she will hold them. So I really fell in love with her on that.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things about her. She's just graceful in the field. So they can be very water driven. I say all the time, like our stud dog, Ben, and I've seen it in some of the other dogs that we've sent out of here. I mean, I always tell them, Ben would crawl over the top of a Chesapeake Bay retriever to get to a duck. I mean,
and he'll win.
Yeah, he's the friendliest, happy-go-lucky dog in the world. But I tell you what, in the water,
he's a force.
He's a force to be reckoned with. And we see that in a lot of the other dogs that have left here too. Those that do a lot of waterfowl and stuff are just thrilled with them. Some of the other differences between them is, they can be slightly more aloof a little bit. I tell people all the time, if somebody could pull up here and all of our poodle pointers would jump in your car and go home with you, right? They would never think twice about us, right? Like, woohoo, another human, we're just going to go with him. The Slovaks, while they're not skittish or anything like that, they're going to be a little bit more hesitant, right? They just take a small warm-up period, they just be a little bit like, hey, who are you? And no, I'm not just going to jump in your rig, right? Like
they will pick a person. They won't pick an only person, but they tend to have a favorite. Now for us here in the dynamic, Glen's the hunter. So that end of it, he's kind of boss. When they come back home, that's kind of my end of the personal end of it. And they do pick a favorite. And I will say our clients say that as well. Not that anybody has an issue with separation anxiety or only liking one person, but they definitely lean toward a favorite person.
Yeah.
In the history of the Slovakian it's kind of funny because anytime you research things like that, every question that answered poses more questions. And when I look into the versatile hunting breeds, the guy that wrote the one book, he said it's deciphering the versatile hunting breeds is kind of like the fishing line that's all tangled up in the bottom of your tackle box because so many of them were developed by type, by usage, by what back then what they wanted, whether it was royalty that wanted something special or the water or those things. And so when to me, the Slovakian breed wasn't even made on purpose. So there was a gentleman in Slovakia that was a big part of developing the wire-haired Vizsla, which is strange how this comes into play because there's always other dogs within the breeding world. Dogs weren't dropped out on the world pier. They all came from somewhere. And so in breeding that wire-haired Vizsla, they used the Chesky Fosick, the German wire hair, and some Weimaraner to develop that breed. Well, one day a litter of Chesky Fosick comes along and there's a gray pup in there. So it's sort of mystery where the gray pup came from, but they kind of think that was all the pre stuff coming before. So this gray pup that was a male, they then went on to breed to Weimaraner and kind of so forth down the line. When the gray came out, that's where the breed kind of started to go. So when the breed developed, then here we are, like all these breeds. Oh, gene pool's pretty small. So that's when, and approved by Europe, the European books over there, and we all know they're tough. That's when they allowed the little bit of poodle pointer, the little bit of pointer, the little bit of more the Chesky Fosick, and that's essentially where the Slovakian came from. It was kind of by accident. You know, if we want to be really honest, it seems like by accident, and boom, came these gray dogs that were versatile, that loved the water, that did all the things that many of these versatile breeds do, kind of came from. And it's a little bit misunderstood even. So over there, they are used a lot for the show line. That's where the problem. And you were saying lack of birds, but the dogs being sort of a royal thing over there, that's kind of where the show lines came from, and they're getting away from the hunting part a little bit. So even Michael Urban, who was a huge part of developing the Slovakian, he's even saying, oof, we got to be really careful. We got to be really careful about what we're bringing over and what we're seeing, and making sure they're healthy and making sure the coats are good and the conformation is good, because they will have a coat from. Now, when we say like a Weimaraner or a smooth, they're not smooth like a Weim. They have a short, thick, dense coat, all the way to the shagginess of a shaggy poodle pointer. So there again lies a similarity within them. They're gray, but they have the same variety in coats. And there is a roan version too. And we imported a roan young male a couple years ago. So we're working on him to be next in line for a stud here.
You mentioned earlier, maybe it was when we were on the phone before, that the breed's really only been around for about 40 years right now. So with just a small number of dogs that are out there, and then dogs that are available from hunting lines, how do you manage genetic diversity within, let's say, even just the North American dogs?
So partially why we imported, and what's crazy is you don't realize how small that gene pool is. When we imported the two females, one was a half sister to our Nadia.
Sure.
So I think right now staying small is the key. Staying small is the key. And we brought Stony in. Now we have kept two Ben. Well, we have one Nadia Ben daughter and one Rika Ben daughter. So those two girls will cross with Stony when he has completed his hunt tests. And it is just going to be small and selective to make sure that we don't trip over ourselves. And also we put breeding restrictions on the dogs that we sell to. The biggest thing with these Slovakians, they're gorgeous. They catch your eye. Nobody knows what they are. And so you get the call that, oh, what's that cool gray dog with the pretty eyes? And then you kind of go, are you a hunter? And they go, well, no, but, and that's where the conversation goes from there. We're trying to be very careful that they don't become a designer cool dog. And that, again, balance of hunting and home. And these guys are doing a lot of different things. We got a gal out in California. She does hunt, but she also does barn games, and they're shed hunting with them. They can blood track. So it's not just a bird dog. It is a versatile dog. They definitely have fur drive if you let them have fur drive. We don't tap into that at all, and we've never had an issue. Glen always says, "Don't let the genie out of the bottle," and that's the true case. Is bunnies are no, kitties are no, squirrels are no, any of that, and they just learn that. They learn leave it. And they learn that that's no, but you can easily have a dog with fur drive with these guys as well. So versatile, home field, all the things. And they look cool. We can't forget.
The fur drive thing it's always a challenge for, for a lot of us with the European dogs, the continental breeds, of course. With my small Munsterlanders, I struggle with it, but I've come to embrace it. And people have heard this before, but kind of like what I was saying before, we're not mecca for upland birds here. And sometimes if you're pheasant hunting, coming home with 2 squirrels instead of a pheasant it's you've got to call it a win, right? And
you sound like a desperate man there.
It is what it is. I like squirrel stew. My wife makes a mean one squirrel with dumplings, and it is delicious.
Oh,
and it tastes a lot better than a frozen pizza. I promise you that.
Well, here, just like with the poodle pointer, I mean, we focus on birds here naturally, right? And more power to those that do, bring out the fur drive in their dogs. I was a houndsman at one time. I fully understand it, but for us, we really focus on the bird hunter and the family aspect of the dogs as well. And like I say, I always feel like if you let that genie out of the bottle, if you start bringing out the fur drive, you can't put it back in.
No,
right? Once it's out, it's out. And we do a lot of training here, and we'll take the dogs down, the pups that we're training, and Stacey will take them down to the barn and tether them in the horse stalls down there in the walkway, and they got barn cats and horses and stuff, and the cattle dog roaming around, and they learn to leave it, and that really transfers over great into the field. I mean, if we're in the field, we kick up a lot of these great big jackrabbits out here and stuff, and you're hunting, and I don't need my dog chasing after them. Once a dog's got a little bit of age behind it, they don't even pay attention, right? They just go straight to looking for another bird. We have so much other game here, right? The amount of rabbits and porcupines and badgers and skunks and deer that we run into every day. If you've got fur drive in your dog here, you're going to be spending a lot of time pulling quills and chasing after,
I had a lady ask me just yesterday on the Slovakians, but how are they with cats? And many of our Slovakian and poodle pointer owners have cats in the home. Never had one issue. And that's owner responsibility. We all know that. And you know what? They are teachable. But my favorite is the Slovakian that went to a home with a ferret, and they play. And she sent me a video of the pup playing with the ferret. And I must have watched it 10 times in a row, because I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And ferrets creep me out. Anyway, I don't know why anybody would have a ferret, but developing them and with the Slovakian, important to them. When they take a Slovakian home, we say, introduce them, anything, everything, the whole world, people, situations. Because if they are too protected and too babied, they tend to be a little bit shy of things. But if you expose them to all that stuff, they're just like, game on. You know what, we can do this. We do have, a big boy here that he's kind of a pampered fella, all 80 pounds of him. And it just, they live their life. He hasn't been a lot of different places. And so we're exposing him to things. We're showing him things. And
he's just in for training.
He's in for training. Right. And yet, but we're learning. We stress that with every pup that leaves this place. We are still learning. And the conversation he and I had previous to this, I said, Glenn, I believe in the Slovakian breed. I really, really do. I don't know where it's going, but really we won't know for 100 years. We won't know for 100 years until they've been around long enough. Are they going to survive in this country? I hope so. And we're doing our best to let the world know what they are, because they're cool dogs. They really are.
I said, we have so many that are, they've already got a poodle pointer, possibly another breed too. And most of our Slovak customers have a poodle pointer. And I mean, it's been 100% satisfaction with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody's thrilled with them, and they enjoy the slight differences, but hunt them together and live together. And
puppy stuff is puppy stuff. I don't care what breed, what breed. It's not unique to any breed. No. So, we have Glenn always says, which makes me laugh, he said, the only thing we'll guarantee when you leave with this puppy is that it will pee on your floor. Other than that, you know what? It's up to you. It's up to you to bring out what the dogs are meant to be. And, we have great people, and people want to do the right thing. And we're here to support that.
I've had people tell me before that, oh, I've got a small Munsterlander, and everybody tells me that, they have tremendous off buttons, and this thing, it's just a terror in the house. It's going crazy. And I always ask, really, how old is it? It's 14 months old now. And I'm like, well, you just have a puppy. It's just
Yes.
that,
You're
and
halfway there.
right, and maybe you need a crate like that might help a little bit,
First thing we ask, are you crate trained?
Yeah.
And
Right.
We beat him to death with the crate. We just like, here's the best, most important thing you will do for your dog. And that will keep you sane. And you know what the other
And
thing
for
we're
yourself,
learning-
yeah.
Yes. And the other thing we're learning too is to stress with everybody is these dogs have drive. That's what we've bred them to do. These dogs want to go and do. That's what we've bred them to do. But we have to offer them calm. They have to have calm. If your house is crazy and you have 3 kids and you have homework and you have dinner and you have activities, I would say, I don't care which one you put in the crate, put the kid or the dog in the crate, but something's got to give so that dog can have some peace. And it makes a difference. They need to learn calm.
I've got 4 dogs between the age of 4.5 months and not quite 6 in crates. The closest one is about 5 feet away from me right now, and the farthest one is about 8 feet away from me right now. And you probably wouldn't have known that until I said that, right?
Yeah.
Because they're in their crates, several hours a day, and they're just fine, and they're all racked out, and 3 small Munsterlanders and a poodle pointer, and they got their funky Munster poses going on, and
Right. Yeah, we're 7. We're surrounded by 7 crates.
There you go.
And, we've got young ones in the house that they need. That's the other thing we require is a in the home. We do have people that, and you know what, you can read that room before it even happens, and then I just come out and ask, is your dog going to live in the home? Well, we usually don't do that, or they can be in the entryway, and the dogs need to be part of your life to thrive. The dogs need to be part of your life to be the best they can be. And not saying the dog can't spend time outside or have an outside option as well. But if you don't want a dog that wants to be with you, don't get a poodle pointer or a Slovakian.
No, there's a breed out there for you if that's what you're looking for. There's not necessarily a breed. There's a line within a breed.
Yes.
And there's a good kennel dog for you, certainly.
Yes.
But you're probably not going to find that in a poodle pointer. You're definitely not going to find that in a small Munsterlander. I can promise you that. And I'm guessing it sounds like you're not going to find it in a Slovakian.
No. They need that human contact. In the poodle pointers, we've got a few that they want to crawl inside you, right? Like they can't get close enough. And our Ollie, I always tell Glenn, I should wear a helmet when I'm around Ollie, because she just wants to be by you. And her daughter, same way. The Slovakians, on the other hand, want to be with you and close to you, but they don't necessarily require being on top of you. And I find that in all of ours here. So Sloan how old is Sloan? She's about 1.5 years. And when she comes in, she wants to be with you. She'll follow you. She'll sit by you on the couch for a minute, goes to her bed. I kind of took it personal for a while. Nadia's the same way. Nadia will lay over, beside, close, but they don't require the up close. Like the poodle pointer, sometimes I tell you what, the one dog, we call her the dog scarf, because she will climb up on you, wrap around you, just like a ferret, and she's hilarious. But the Slovakians do have that little bit of independence that way, which sometimes is kind of handy.
Well, and we we do this full time, and we've got a decent number of dogs here. We rotate all of our dogs through the home 100%. You've seen our kennel a little bit. Well, we've got an excellent kennel facility and so forth. And sometimes I think they'd almost rather be out there. That's where we are much of the day, right? We're always out there. They want to be where we are. But all of our dogs are house trained, potty trained, rotate through the home on a regular schedule. We will never have kennel only dogs. And we think that's very important.
Correct. Well, and Glenn always says we teach hunting, but we teach them to be good citizens. We want them to be, and that's one of my favorite things he said lately is in our training, we don't just hunt train, we teach them to be a good citizen and part of the family. And that's huge because it goes together. It just really, really goes together. We've had dogs trained in the past that, you know what, they go in the outdoor kennel, they train, they go back in the kennel. And I don't believe that anymore.
We used to at one point use some outside training, and we just never had the same result we do doing it here in house. And we believe heavily on the obedience being such a key factor in it, and the exposure to everything. Right? You can't just pop a dog out of a kennel and train it for an hour a day and you're done with it. That dog needs a lot of different experiences, and
a trained dog that is not obedient is still not very fun. People need to understand how the obedience creates the trained dog, and they work so perfectly together. I know, there's days here it's like, what is going on? Are you guys on crack? And that's when kennel, let's have, time out, if you will. And it teaches them patience. It teaches them to shut down, and that at the off switch everybody talks about, it's not automatic. You're not going to get a poodle pointer with an off switch if you don't teach it how to have an off switch. I mean, they can be wild as anything too. And it all comes together in the end when there's balance.
Yeah.
Mental and physical stimulation. One is important as the other.
Yeah, and there's really two parts to that too that I think are worth kind of digging a little bit deeper on it. The first is that any of the advanced hunt tests, whether you're talking about AKC Master Hunter or you're talking about utility or higher and NAVDA, well over half of the test is obedience. It's obedience and cooperation. The hunting skills have really already been demonstrated at earlier levels of testing. It's discipline and it's obedience that separates a master hunter from a senior hunter, and a utility prize 1 from a prize 3 or a no prize dog. It's how well that dog cooperates and how well it handles. The other thing is that I think a lot of people don't think about in training is the incorporation of negative punishment as a way to shape behavior or to bring out behavior. And just, if that dog is just not performing that day, or it's not learning properly that day, it's not demonstrating a behavior that has been previously learned, then it's simple to just take that dog, put it back in the crate and say, hey, you know what, we're done for the morning, or maybe we're done for the day or whatever, because the dog's going to be like, wait a minute. Normally I'm out for, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, however long that training session's going to be. And today, crap, I only got 5 minutes in. What did I do wrong? The dog does have an opportunity to think about it. I don't think we're really anthropomorphizing that too much, because I know trainers that do that and it works very, very well.
Mm-hmm. Whenever we're having a tough day in the field, something's not going right, new skill we're working on or whatever, we'll cut the session short. But it's one of the benefits we have with our facility here and the grounds and everything that we've got, right? We can cut the session short, put them back away to get a quick reset. But then in short order, I want to grab that dog again, go back out and work on something positive that it knows well and enjoys too, right? Like, we don't want them to sit and stew too much. I swear they do sometimes. And try to end on a positive note. And, you can't take a dog out and train it all day long. Right? I firmly believe in lots of short sessions, and we have that ability here, and that's one of our keys to success for sure. Right? We just, things are going tough. We can always go do another session out in the field and just short order.
Well, and I think too, what people forget, and again, I learned this through the horses too, and Glenn and I remind each other of it, is where your mind and body are on a given day have so much to do with how your dogs react to you. And, if we're not to say that we ever argue, but if it's a heated conversation in the kennel, whether it be about life or whatever it be, and you can just look at the dogs and they're like, whoa, what's happening here? I don't like this vibe, or stress of, we've had a hard summer with family, and death of his dad and things like that. And it carries. And that's where at the beginning of this, I said patience. And so when we walk through that kennel door, it's like, okay, leave the rest outside because they don't deserve what's going on inside your body right now. And they feel it and you see it. And, sometimes we just sit out there, and I do it sometimes, like when he crazy coyote night hunts in the middle of the winter and I'm here, I'll go out and set up my chair and watch a movie with the dogs. And it is such a peaceful environment. They just want their people there. And they do love the animated Grinch at Christmas time. We watch it quite a lot. They love the music, they love the colors, and I love but it's we can't say it enough with people is you think they don't feel you, they feel you.
Yeah. You have to be zen around the dog, right? I mean, that's a big part of it.
They feel you.
You can't go train a dog if you're not in a zen kind of mood.
Yeah. I've kicked Glen out. I'm like, go out, pick up some poop, take a breath, leave it in the can, man. Come back in, and let's do this again. They're a very good barometer of what we have going on, and they deserve the best us, and we try to give them that every single day.
And I think it's also important, one thing that you brought up is just noticing that in your training partner and being able to vocalize it. And I know my wife has asked me before, is this the best time for you to be training that dog? Yeah. And I usually have to think, well, okay, if she noticed it, then the dog noticed it a long time ago. And it is time to, maybe do something simple, even if it's just a quick whoa or a sit or whatever. Do something really easy, get tons of praise for it, maybe a treat or whatever. And then, all right, it's time to get put up, and maybe the trainer needs a little bit of a little bit of negative punishment at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Exactly. I think the biggest thing is like the patience and the rush factor is that I catch myself. I know he does it too. We do it. Is you're performing a task, but your mind is already moving towards the next task. And I see that myself in the horses even more because I'm bouncing back and forth, but we have to be in the moment and remember to be in the moment. And that's a huge reminder to ourselves.
Well, your dog only lives in the moment, right? Yep. So, I mean, they do, right? That's the big difference between humans and dogs. They live in the moment, and we have to make sure that we get ourselves there as well.
Sure. So you guys mentioned you said 7 or 8 dogs in the kennel right now?
Well,
that's in the house. That's in the crates. Okay,
so
that's in the crates.
Those are the youngsters in for training. Currently we have 6 breeding age poodle pointers, 3 up and coming young girls. We have poodle pointers. We have 1 up and coming stud dog in the poodle pointer, and then our stud rook in the kennel. And then for the Slovakians, we have Ben, who is our stud, Nadia, who is breeding age, and 2 young girls and 1 young boy. We did just retire a Slovakian female, so it's a full house. My daughter comes and she has 2 dogs too, and I'm like, oh man, Kendall, we're full at the inn, but there's always a corner. There's always a corner, and we have a lot of people that are close enough to that board with us, and there's been medical emergencies, there's been work emergencies, and you know what? If we're full, Glen once told a client, he said, if I have to put him in my bed, I'll put him in my bed. And you know what? We make it work for our people.
Yeah, we do a lot of board and train, or even some boarding. An important thing with us is we only work with dogs that come from our kennel. We don't bring in outside dogs to work with. There's some exceptions.
There's been a couple
exceptions, but it's because they probably have a dog from us already and they have a short hair or something else. But for the most part, we stay just with the dogs that leave here, and
it's always home to them. It seems like they come back, and our people are so happy because the dog turns the corner and they know where they're at, and it's a comfort thing for the dog and the owners as well. And it's very gratifying to know, we don't have anybody biting at the kennels. We don't have anybody chewing on their feet. We don't have anybody refusing to eat. I mean, some of the young ones, it's a reacclimation process, but it's a happy place here, and we're proud of that.
Probably one of the biggest things is over the years have really, I mean, training's become a huge part of what we do now. And that wasn't initially what we set out for. And I mean, anymore, we're training probably 50-60% of the pups that leave here. Some of them for, we do a lot of started dogs that leave here at, 6 months or up to a year old, that are for people specifically, or, we'll do second and third year trainings, but we really focus, especially on that first year of a dog's life, all the exposures that it needs, to become a good hunting dog and a confident dog for the family. But the biggest thing that's done for us, and we're training so many of the pups that leave here, is it gives me that insight into our parents, right? Like I get something that now that we're doing a lot of that, I wonder just how breeders can thoroughly understand their dogs if they're not doing the training. It's given us this incredible insight. Also, all of our dogs are here on site. We don't have dogs farmed out, and that's become such a big thing. You see a lot nowadays where you've got breeders, guardian homes, and not that it's right or wrong. I mean, I think there's a place for that as well sometimes, but having all of our dogs here on site, and we do this full time, right? Like we're super involved with them. That gives us insight that I couldn't do without.
No.
It's, I know the ins and outs of the dogs, the good, the bad, where I want to go. Sometimes it takes me months to fully understand that. Like, what, this next time I want to pair this with that. And I want to, there's something I feel I can improve on there. And that's what we should all be doing as a responsible breeder, right? Like our goal should be, before I die, I want to breed the best dog that's ever existed. That's my goal, right? And I'll never get there. I'll never attain it. Something people ask a lot, like when the dog's in for breeding, they're like, oh, well, when do you think my dog's ready to go? I've never once sent a dog out of here and said, you know what, I'm completely done. I'm 100% satisfied, because I don't care if I worked with the dog for like 10 years. I'm still going to feel like, man, I think I could do a little more. I think I could improve on this. Right. But that's the big thing for us. So like, we know our clients, we know their dogs. It gives us, we want to create our own signature dog, and we kind of have our poodle pointers. I mean, a Dakota Sky pup, we really know what we're sending out the door, and we've created a line that we're very confident in and comfortable in sending home. The Slovak, we kind of have too, right? We're maybe not as far along as we are with the poodle pointer, but
you can't be.
You can't.
I mean, we can't be. It's a slower process. It's a finding the market process. It's making sure you don't overbreed, so all those pups go to great places, and you're not just, oh my gosh. Here's the other thing, a lot of breeders get pretty uptight when that 7-week-old pup doesn't go home. That's not an issue here. If they're here for 7 or 16 weeks, we just continue moving on with them. It goes from crate training to potty training to birds to water to the field. And we've never had a pup that didn't find the right home. So again, patience comes into the whole thing, but we're happy to have like these Slovakians, especially. I have 4 of them. One is our personal dog, 2 are training, and 1's available. And man, do I learn from these guys. How am I ever going to know more about this breed when I don't go through the stages? And we go through the stages, and I enjoy them. I enjoy them a lot. And I think the world needs to know more about them, but I think you also need to be dog savvy to take on a Slovakian. We will teach people, we will help people, but you have to understand a working dog. You have to understand, and that's most of our breeds, right? But understand what you're buying. You're not buying a gray dog with pretty eyes. You're buying a working dog that's going to be your best friend ever, if you do the right things. So and the individuality of the Slovakian is like super cool.
I think holding on to that dog for a little bit longer, even if that wasn't the original plan, it does give you at least a little bit of insight into how your breeding program is working
Absolutely.
out. Right. And
absolutely.
Unfortunately, there is a big cost associated with that.
There's that.
So I also have a dog that I'm starting here, and I'm hoping that we find a home for him here pretty soon. It's the market is really interesting, and this is my first time doing this, but you get tons and tons of tire kickers, and when you finally get down to talking price with people, and they're blown away at what the cost is. But when you break it down, I mean, it's like a minimum wage job.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
At best, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It really is. And to me, it's I have it all, written out now. So I've had people get, I won't say combative, but sometimes a little bit argumentative about the price. And I say, I'm happy to share this with you if you've got the
Right.
time, but there's no profit here. I promise you that.
You know what I really like about when we have a started dog that we're working with that isn't homed yet, or the market's shifted some over the last year or two, right? Like
Yeah.
feeding frenzy's kind of gone, and so now it's pups aren't necessarily 100 people on the waiting list, right? We still have waiting lists and people that want specific litters in the future and stuff. But when we have some of these started dogs or maybe one available, if you're running your business right with it and you're screening people right, it's been very positive because we're filling the gap now for people. They're calling, they're saying, hey, I just lost, could be a different breed. I just lost my wire hair. He was 7 years old, got blasto and we lost him, hit by a car, whatever the horrible things that happened. We can actually help that guy get a dog again. And that's been super rewarding. We've actually seen the clientele, the level of clientele, the serious hunters or the NAVDA people, like it's actually improved rather than because you're not just kicking the dog out to just whoever calls, right? Like we're screening. But when we have that started pup, we're able to fill a gap for people where before we'd have been said, man, sorry to hear that you lost your dog. We're a year out. We're a year and a half out, right? We're able to get that guy hunting again this year. They're knowledgeable. They're on versatile dog number 4 already or something in their lifetime. And we can get them going, or, just have a Slovak going home to a gentleman next week. He, I can't remember what he has. I think he has a wime, if I remember right. He just losing his wime, has to put it down this week, and we're able to put him into another pup right now, right? He's 72 years old. Doesn't really probably want to wait 2 years to get on a
That's
dog.
a poodle pointer,
Is that a poodle pointer? Yeah, I couldn't remember there. So yeah, he's got to put a poodle pointer down this next week. We've got a dog that he can get in the field this year and get rolling, and probably be his. He always says it's going to be his last pup. A lot of people say that, but there's hopefully more still in the future. But it's been a great thing as we see that market shift. Though it's not all bad, right? Like your backyard breeder that maybe thinks they want to make a buck. Yeah, it's probably not real pleasant for them when they got a litter of pups they can't home. But for those that take it seriously and this is what we do, man, it's actually better homes, more experienced owners. It's a very positive thing.
So you've already been on some Huns, and Sharpies are open for you, and are prairie chickens open for you, or do you even have prairie chickens?
Prairie chickens closed here in North Dakota.
Okay. Yeah.
Prairie chicken and sage grouse remains closed. So yeah, Sharpies and Huns opened about 2 weeks ago, and Dove's been open for a while. So we can hunt those now, and the only problem you run into is depending on what kind of territory, and you're kicking up pheasants all over the place.
That was a problem at the Invitational this year on some of the fields early on in the week. The first few braces that were running were kicking up a ton of pheasants. I mean, these are great dogs. They're not busting birds. They're pointing these, out of season game birds when there's, I think the handlers are hoping that they just encounter the fewest planted chucker that they can possibly run into and be done with that part of the test, right?
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, sometimes in the training field here, it's a problem. I've got a young dog that I've got planted birds on or in a launcher, and I'm trying to work the situation to be a positive learning situation for the dog. And next thing you know, 3-month-old dog finds itself in the covey of Huns busting all around it, and all hell breaks loose, and we just control the situation. A frequent problem, but it's a good problem to have for sure.
Yeah, these are not bad problems, and I can tell you they're definitely better than the alternative. And the other thing is you can run into that anywhere. I was at a NAVDA training day. One of my small monster landers was crowding birds, and so I had specific birds set out in launchers so that I could control that situation. And I know when she's coming into that scent cone, and I could launch that bird early and that, and then she doesn't get to chase and all that other stuff. But what I didn't realize is that some of the people that had gone before me had left a bunch of planted birds out there for whatever reason. They didn't find them or just didn't kill them or whatever. I don't know what they did, but it pretty much made my run basically pointless.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
So she was getting a great chase out of these quail that she was busting, and I'm like, I'm not training anymore. We're just running around in a field. So she went back in the truck, unfortunately. So what else do you have planned now for hunting? So pheasant should come in a few weeks, right?
Yeah, October 12th, pheasant opens here. And
Yep.
we're a little delayed in some of our training this year because we've lost my father this year, and I managed to tear an Achilles tendon early this spring. So some of our training got a little delayed. So we're kind of catching up on that. We're training a little later this year. We kind of train year round, but we're just a little heavier on that than we'd like to be right now. So we've got to make that the focus. We're trying to get that tidied up. And we always do train quite a few dogs that are here specifically to hunt too, that are come in from maybe out of state and stuff.
Do the real deal. So we'll have some of them. But it's time to get all of our dogs out, right? Like they get in the rotation, and because this is what we do. I mean, it's pretty much every day. You hit the field with hunting wild birds, often combining a training dog with some of our own dogs to make sure everybody's rotated through, and we have that luxury here, right? And we're literally hunting in wild birds within 1 minute of the Glenn's
camp.
biggest decision at night, we say, well, who's hunting tomorrow? And he has to go, oh,
I stress over that.
Yeah. Who am I taking? Which pair needs to go? Depends what you're hunting. Depends what
typically
birds.
3 at a time is what I take. And
Right.
the nice thing is we can hit the field and get out there early, and then I'll call Stacy, hey, I'm heading in, and please get so and so ready to go. We don't necessarily shoot a lot of birds, right? Like when we're out hunting wild birds here, I'm kind of past that point of look how many I got, or some of the local guys are like, look, we limited out in 3 minutes. It's like not of an interest to me, right? We're only shooting birds, and we have the right contacts, and the dog does the right things. And I mean, a lot of times, the local buddies, they don't want to go hunt with me because they're like, one, I'm always bringing a young dog along, and two, like I'm just not there to see how many birds I can shoot and get my limit, right? Like I can have my best days and still only bring home 1 or 2 birds because that's where that dog did the right things. The situation was right. So we have that luxury. I mean, I'll be out, 3 sessions a day, wild bird hunting all day long. And, wearing, I never wear out my dog, right? Like I just grab another one. It's kind of awesome.
Got a lot of dog power to work through. So.
Got a lot of dog power to work with, and we have a lot of access, both that we own and also just, we have a lot of public land access here as well.
Yeah.
That we have, we have our own properties, literally 2 minutes from the kennel here. We've got a large plot land, the public land open to trespass that they have here. It's just literally across the road from us. And that's, I don't know, there's probably a couple thousand acres over there. It's all over the place here. So we can just get out there, get these dogs the exposure they need. And,
Yeah, and certain dogs do certain conditions better. Some handle the heat better, some handle the cold better. So it's you assess the morning. And I always tell Glenn, don't look anybody in the eye till you know who you're going to take, because they know, they just feel it and they know. Or when the tailgate opens, all hell breaks loose around here. So we have to be kind of subtle, but they love it.
Yeah, unfortunately for my dogs, my gun safe is down here in the same room where they sleep, and most of my hunting clothes is down here in the same room where they sleep. So they see me getting ready, and they know what's up, and they say, and I'm not going to argue with a vet or a biologist or whatever that tells me that dogs can't see blaze orange, but I'll tell you, when I pull out some blaze orange, they see something, that's for sure.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Right. But it's interesting to hear. So, you never really stop training, even when you're hunting, and you hear so many hunters and dog owners that say, well, hunting season is hunting season, and all bets are off because I'm out there for the birds. And I kind of look at it and say, man, I just don't want to create more problems during hunting season that I'm going to have to go back and correct, particularly on a young dog that maybe is going to get hunt tested in the spring or in the summertime. I would much rather focus on doing it correctly, even if it means I don't have that extra bird in the bag.
Yeah. Well, here in North Dakota, we're a little different than maybe some of the locals too, right? I said we're not out there to just see if we can get our limit before breakfast and be done for the day. We want to drag it out through the day. It's an experience for us, for the dogs. We have a lot of dogs to hunt and exposure, and it's about, like you said, you don't want to ruin a dog either, right? So we're selective in the shots we're taking, the cover that we're hunting. I'm not interested in driving down the road and jumping out and ditch hunting like everybody else does.
Yeah.
I mean, I want it to be an adventure. It's that dog learning to open up, learning to explore, learning where the game hides, that it's in the thicker cover, all that kind of stuff, right? We're training. It's our dogs, some of our older dogs, they get their days out there. They get to just go,
hog wild,
go hog wild a little bit, right?
They've earned it. They've learned a little. Yeah.
It's kind of funny, too, when we're training pups during season and we're out there, we can run the situation where they just get bird drunk, right? They get in there and there's literally hundreds and hundreds of birds and they're crisscrossing and running everywhere. They can't tell the difference between old scent, new scent. Birds are flying all over the place, and that can be a problem too, right? You can lose control of the situation, but part of it is also those dogs learning to figure out what is truly fresh scent. Is there an actual bird there? Ignoring the chaos that might be going around and trying to find that one that got left behind, right? That's what we're looking for. And depending where that dog is in its training career. So it's a wonderful advantage that we have, and we take, full advantage of it when we can. And that's why you see August hits and there's a lot of trainers that come up here and bring all their dogs and run on the sharp tails, especially and stuff. And we get to live it every day. And it's a beautiful thing for sure.
I've heard people talk about, the people that come from out of state or from the city or whatever, that run their dogs on those birds. And they say that, you're kind of educating the birds too early. And I just look at it as, if I can hunt a smarter bird earlier in the season, it's just more fun for me and for the dogs at the end of the day. I don't want to hunt dumb birds. So if I wanted to do that, I would just go to a preserve.
Yeah. Well, and North Dakota, right? We don't really have an overpopulation problem with people. So it's, even most birds aren't getting chased around. Yeah. Pheasants late season become quite difficult. Don't get me wrong, but there's not enough people chasing Sharpies and hunts that becomes too big of a factor. And that's in such big open ground. Your pheasants are a little more in the farmland and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we have so much public land where we're at here to get out there and explore. You'll never be able to walk at all. But to tell you what, man, trying to get a late season pheasant in a 45-mile-an-hour wind when it's 10 below zero. Sounds like the way we're talking, it sounds like we're shooting fish in a barrel. There's plenty of times I come back in December pretty frustrated.
Yeah.
You can't get the truck door closed and they're gone.
More so you want success for the dogs. It doesn't matter how cold he gets or what happens. He wants to know the dog had a good time. And that's success. That's success here.
Yeah.
Now, are you doing any out-of-state hunting? Do you have hunting trips planned or anything like that? Or you just kind of stay where you're at because you can?
I'd like to. This year, I might run down to South Dakota a little bit with some friends down there. I spent a lot of my life out in the high desert of Oregon and Idaho, so I enjoy chucker hunting out there. Some would like to get back to a little bit of that, and I do enjoy the high desert out there in general, but I'm not so sure this year's going to happen. But
it's a tough program here, just the two of us between the horses and the dogs, and it's just us. It's us, so it's tough to get away, and that's priority first. I know Glen gets pretty frustrated because this time of year comes and you want to go reap all those benefits, and it's taking care of business at home first. Plus you have the luxury of going out the back door and doing that, but we hope to get to a place where he can go do those things and it's not quite so chaotic at home. Kids, family life, the world.
I really enjoy my nighttime thermal coyote hunting in the winter, but when I come walking in the door at 3 a.m, somebody still makes me get up at 6 o'clock.
I
and go
do
to the
not
kennel.
do
Yes, you
that.
do.
I do not. I do not do that.
There's no mercy shown for me.
It's pure guilt that he gets up and does his share. Yeah.
You think I was coming home from the bar at 3 a.m?
That's just dumb. His coyote hunting season is my Hallmark Christmas movie season, so it works out pretty good.
Oh,
But I'll tell you
nice.
what, though, when you're walking out there in the dark by yourself in the middle of nowhere and you step on a rooster in the middle of the night, it still gets your blood pumping.
I used to get a little bit spooked walking out of the deer woods at night, during bow season, and I spent a lot of time archery hunting big game before I even had a bird dog. And, I'd hunt every morning and every night, before work and go into work late and then sneak out of work early just to get back in the tree stand in the afternoon and, sit there until, an hour past sunset because I didn't want to spook anything that might have been around at 30 minutes past sunset and, walking 2 miles back to the truck in the dark, not even wanting to use a red lens because I don't want to spook anything. But man, I've been just scared out of my mind sometimes walking back through the woods.
Hey, this morning I walked out of the house, my cup of coffee just shortly after sunup to head over to the kennel, and the roosters were clucking at me as I was walking out there. And it's the first real crisp, cold morning. It was about 34, 35 degrees of the year. And I thought life was pretty good, man.
Yeah.
Like I really did.
Yeah.
I was walking out to a kennel full of dogs and roosters are making noise. And it was
good to remind yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a bad way to start the day. We're still we don't have those cool mornings just yet. I mean, I've got my thermal shirt on right now, but that's only because I got rain down this afternoon in my garage. My office is sub-level, so it gets a little bit cool down here. So with the wet t-shirt, I figured I'd put on another layer, but it's still warm outside, and even in the mornings, when I'm out working dogs at about 5:30 in the morning is when I get up and get the first dog out in a leash, and it's still pretty warm here, unfortunately. But I've had you guys on for a while. I'm going to ask you guys: is there anything that you guys would like to add to what we talked about?
Good.
I mean, the call was intended to be about the Slovakian rough-haired pointer, and I mean, I can definitely just say that they've been a great addition to our kennel and to our lives, to our customers that have them, that have other breeds as well. We don't have one unhappy client out there. They're very unique. They're similar to the other versatile breeds with some unique differences, right? That the nose is one of the best I've ever seen. Their ability to track and work ground scent, the water desire. But
and you know what, we're doing our best to stay true to that breed, to keep them healthy, to keep them smart, to keep them hunting, and we're going to learn right along with everybody as we go. And we don't know where that is yet, but we're still going to keep believing in them, and even if it's a slow pace, or even if we have to not have a litter right now, we believe in them enough that we're here to stay.
Kind of reminds me a little bit like maybe where the poodle pointer was, 30 pushing 40 years ago, in the US, right? Like that's kind of where we maybe are here with these. And we want to make sure we do all the right moves to assure that breed is, successful here in North America. And, we would welcome any other, quality breeders that help do the right thing, right? Like we need additional quality breeders to see this through. But it's a big step, right? For us, it's a little bit of our science project. Our poodle pointers are bread and butter, and it's cut and dried, and we know what we're doing and what we're producing and everything else. The Slovak, we feel that way for the most part too, but it's up to us to continue to drive that breed forward at this point. And there are some other good breeders out there, but they're all very small scale too, right? There's nobody. It's and the dog breeders, right? There's not a whole ton of young ones out there sometimes, so. Things can get precarious. We welcome anyone that is doing the right things to assure the breed for the future.
That's a really good point too. That interdependence between breeders, especially with smaller or less common breeds, and how important that is. You can't just be a single breeder and have a monopoly on the market, because it's just not going to work out for the health of the dogs in the long run.
Yep.
Or we won't get it done in our lifetime.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to do the best by the breed, and that's not, we can't do that by ourselves.
Yeah. Some of the new challenges with importing dogs now too, right? Like we've had to import the majority of what we're doing here with the Slovaks.
And that just became a lot harder.
That became harder, right? Some of those things hopefully will loosen back up. But that's takes more than just one individual to drive this forward. But it's rewarding. That's one thing I can say, man. The Slovaks, they have brought a ton to our lives, to our kennel, to our clients.
They have.
And to see one work in the field, and they can be very tenacious. Once they get on a bird, it's a done deal. They're gonna see it through. And they're definitely a dog to take a look at. And in addition, they're beautiful, and I don't have to explain to people and ask what my dog is. I don't have to hear their story about their Labradoodle or their Golden Doodle, their cousin Whipcat. When I say I've got a poodle pointer,
it's more so what the heck is that?
Yeah. They're for sure. They're very striking dogs. The Slovakians are.
So I know you guys said you're working on the website. How can people contact you if they want to learn more about Slovakian rough-haired pointers, or they just want to learn more about your kennel?
For the most part, we're on Facebook, right? Dakota Sky Poodle Pointers on Facebook, and our contact info is on there. You can give us a call off there or send us a message on Messenger. We're always happy to talk dogs, right? Probably a little too much.
Right. And, right. Phone numbers on there, and yeah.
All right.
Websites in the works.
Yeah.
We've been saying
you kind of spurred me on the other day when I said, oh, we really need to get a website done, and you said, yeah, you really do.
I made a comment to you a little earlier when we were talking, and in today's world with social media and everything else, right? People sometimes put the image and the social media thing
cart before the horse,
right? They have this awesome looking social media presence, like they're a big deal. And for us, we've done the work first. We've created
it's time.
Yeah, it's time, right?
Yeah, no more excuses. It's time to buckle down and get it done.
We have a good story to tell. We've got some great dogs to show. We've done all the work and created a entity of our own, and we need to be a little better on that side of it. But honestly, we're busy handling dogs, touching dogs, and so
we'll get there.
Good. And just so the listeners know, Glen and Stacey sent me a video of their kennel earlier, and it's a quick, I don't know, it's maybe less than a minute long, I think, of just a real quick walkthrough. And you guys really do have a top-notch facility. And I was looking at it and I was like, man, I really got to step up my game, and I've got plans for what I'm doing. And, I've started cleaning out and building, but yeah, you guys are at another level from where I'll be in anytime in the near future. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to come see it yourself. Come out.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll do a little hunt together and take a peek.
For sure. Sure. It's our little palace. We're pretty proud of it. Yeah. We're pretty proud of it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, guys, thanks so much for being on the show, and thanks for inviting me out there. I would say be careful, because I have a tendency to take people up on their offers.
Fair.
All right. It was great talking with you guys.
You as well.
Thank you, sir.
I hope you enjoyed episode number 36 of the Whoa Post podcast. And if you did, subscribe or follow and leave a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. Remember to like and follow at the Whoa Post on Facebook or Instagram, and become a patron at patreon.com/thewhopost. Also, check out Faith in the Point Bird Dogs training seminar at the link in the show notes. And if you own a bird dog related business and you'd like to advertise on the Whoa Post, or you'd like to contact me for any reason, email me at bill@thewhopost.com. Stay steady and God bless.